Can you give a brief history of Mongolia for listeners and viewers, and like what big historical events are taught in school?
Mhm. So, our country has 800 years of history. Back in 13th century, the man of millennium, a great leader called Genghis Khan, we call him Chinggis, founded this country and named the Great Mongol Empire. He united all the separate tribes in Mongolia and then conquered China, Turks and Persians, and even India. So after his death, the empire continued to grow for 150 years. So his empire was the same size of Africa continent at a
Oh,
time.
jeez, it's
Yes,
huge.
it's huge, right? So that was the prosperity of Mongolia that we are proud, always proud of Genghis Khan. You can find the beer, international hotel, restaurants, and airport, golf club named after Genghis
Yeah.
here in Mongolia. And then there was a fall of this Mongol Empire, and we were conquered by China for 200 years, and then we were also under the communist control for about 60 years until 1990, and so 2021 is the 100 years of anniversary of independence of our country, and it's been also 30 years that we are in democracy, that we elect our people leaders, and free market that has changed so many things, especially the way of our life, the nomadic life, forced many people to move to the city and pursue the city life. So we have only 3 million people in Mongolia, but half of us live in the city where I live in Ulaanbaatar.
Okay.
So the rest live as a nomadic herder or live in the town. And a quarter of Mongolians live as a nomadic herder in a yurt and move 4 to 6 times in a year.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
It's so fascinating. Like one of the reasons I wanted to have you on is like Mongolian culture to me seems so unique compared to like the rest of the world. And like historically, there's so much that has happened.
Mhm.
Um, and like the architecture in the capital is really interesting. It's like there's these temples that are very unique and
Uh-huh.
ornate, and then there's like the buildings that were
Mhm.
obviously constructed during communist rule, and
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's like so wild. And I was telling Zola before we recorded that I read this book called The Dinosaur Artist.
Mhm.
um for those listening, you already know that I'm a big fan of dinosaurs and paleontology. And in the world,
Mhm.
there's only certain places that you can find like dinosaur. Well, you can find dinosaur fossils everywhere, but like the
Mhm.
big expeditions happen in terrain that is dry and exposed. So a lot of desert climates. Um,
Right.
and Mongolia has the Gobi Desert there. And I read this book called The Dinosaur Artist. A lot of the book takes
Mhm.
place in Mongolia. There's this like T-Rex cousin named
Uh-huh.
Tarbosaurus Patar.
Uh-huh.
And so
Tibatar.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was cool to learn more about Mongolia in that book. And
Mhm.
yeah, that's why I wanted to talk to you more about it. Can you describe the geography and the terrain and that like
Uh-huh.
climate of
Uh-huh.
Mongolia?
Right. So our country, we have a varied landscape. So the only thing we are missing is ocean. It's one of the largest landlocked countries. So in the west, we have a snow-capped mountain. In the south, we have one of the largest desert. A part of the desert is located. It's second world largest desert after Sahara. And then we have Green Valley River, elevated part of the country in central and northern part, because it's so close to Siberia, right?
Yeah.
And eastern part is kind of flat plateau. Mongolian Plateau is just there. You can see hundreds of kilometers without any obstacle. That we call it steppe.
Okay.
So makes Mongolia very special. People can explore all type of different places, right? And of course, the Gobi Desert attracts many people because of these dinosaur findings, right? So our one a third of the Mongolian landscape is Gobi Desert. So meaning Gobi means desert in Mongolian, and this desert is not like a Sahara. It has a 33 different ecosystem.
Oh,
Mean
wow.
uh, only 3% of this landscape is desert. The rest
Okay.
is rocky plains or treeless mountain hill
Mhm.
and and the plants, gobi plants. So it can you can spend days, weeks traveling in this area without seeing a tree or a car or even a person. So
Yeah.
it's a vast, harsh landscape, the southern region, because there's very little precipitation,
Okay.
250 millimeter rainfall a year. So it's very dry, but it's also very cold in winter, minus 20, 30 Celsius, and summer it's right opposite. So
Oh,
yeah, and this desert is where the scientists come and dig for dinosaurs.
yeah.
And I read between 1922 and 2030, the American paleontologist, the Roy Chapman Andrews, found more than 100 different dinosaurs in Mongolia, including the first dinosaur eggs. So
Oh,
no,
yeah.
yeah, no one before he found them, no one knew how the dinosaur babies came into the world. So nobody knew it was they laid eggs like birds do, right?
Yeah.
So which was a very interesting discovery, and he made this flaming cliff, the area where he found these eggs, popular in the world. And not only the American expeditions came and explored this area, but also from Russia, Poland, and Japan expeditions
Mhm.
over many more. Still today, we every summer there are students come from America, Europe to study more. And back in that time, Mongolian people were very conservative. Like they don't touch any these kind of bones. They believed it was from dragon, so they left
Okay.
it as it. So it made it very easy to find these kind of discoveries for adventurers. It was untouched at a time, and today it's difficult to find these skeletons or eggs, yeah, on the ground, but you need the equipment and permission to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a process you have to follow. Right.
Uh-huh.
Um,
And yeah, we also have two museums in the city displaying different dinosaur skeletons and eggs. So is built by the discovers by the skeletons returned from US. So
oh, really?
yeah, they were smuggled
Interesting. Yeah.
and then returned by the people who donated back to
Yeah.
those, yeah, those arts. So you can see many these fresh, well preserved skeleton eggs in museum and even on site if you go to the Gobi Desert, the southern region of Mongolia.
Yeah. It's so fascinating. I've seen some of your photos of the
Mm-hmm.
terrain, and it's so beautiful. It's so diverse in
Mm-hmm.
its landscape, and
Uh-huh.
uh, it's cool. What is the city like then?
The city is very interesting, as you said.
Mhm.
We see that it's a kind of mess because our city was built, founded in today's location 300 years ago with the planning of 600,000 people only. Now the population is doubled already,
Okay.
and we have a mixture of a different apartment, flat, and traditional houses, gear, brick, wooden houses. Like you can imagine, many people live in different accommodation, from traditional to modern. And
Yeah.
we have national hotels, glass buildings, cafes, different restaurants in city, even karaoke, nightclubs, that you can entertain yourself. And you can also see some of the Russian communist buildings in the main street called the Peace Avenue, and theater, um, Parliament House. Yeah,
Wow. So
very.
what are the people like?
People, I would say, we also have a diverse because there are newcomers from different region of Mongolia, and there are very city modern people,
Okay.
and most of us are very young. The whole population is very young, under 40 years old. So
Really?
yeah,
Interesting.
in the city you will see many young people. Either they are students or uh, workforce, young families
Okay.
in the city. And if you're elder, you would prefer living outside the city.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but because all the universities are located in this city, that means kids from all over Mongolia come and study here, and then they end up living or working in this city. So that's how the number of people grew. And but in summertime, yeah, people leave the city. They change. They stay in the countryside and spend the summer with the relatives or with the nomads outside the city. So when fall comes, the 1st of September is a school day. So we have a big traffic, and I feel like everyone is back.
Wow. So people, so do a lot of people in the city, you said they're young.
Mhm.
Um, do most of them have families that live in the countryside, or are they coming from other countries to study?
They come from countryside to study.
Okay.
Their parents or relatives can be in the countryside, but they might have relatives in the city. So
Is
they build their own family in the city.
Yeah.
And young people, you know.
Yeah. How many other large cities are there in Mongolia?
We have two more cities that mostly has mine, the copper big factory. Irtnit Darkhan, we say they are about 300 kilometers away from the
Okay.
city. Still not as big as this capital.
Yeah. It seems like the capital of Mongolia is like where a lot of stuff happens.
Yeah, everything
Yeah.
happens.